This is a Dynamics 365 podcast, focusing on the ingredients of a successful Dynamics 365 practice. Your host is Business Solution MVP Mark Smith, otherwise known as the NZ365 Guy. In this podcast, I interview Heather Hall. Please note there is a problem with the quality of the audio to start, but it gets better as you go along. For more information on this interview, show notes, feedback, and resources mentioned, or to suggest a guest for future episodes, please go to nz365guy.com/podcast. Thanks to Kingsway Soft for sponsoring the Dynamics 365 podcast. Kingsway Soft is a leading integration solution provider offering software solutions that make data integration affordable and painlessly easy. Thousands of enterprise clients from over 70 countries and regions rely on Kingsway Soft to integrate their data with various business systems in order to drive their business efficiency and fully leverage their information assets. Kingsway Soft is a leading provider of Microsoft Dynamics integration software, including Dynamics 365, CRM, AX, NAV, GP, SL, as well as many other applications. Check out their fall 2017 release that includes multi-threading and audit log deletion. Hi everyone, I'm here with Heather Hall, and in this episode we're going to be focusing on people, recruiting, and leadership in the Dynamics 365 practice. Heather is Senior Vice President of CRM at Eclipse, a DXC Technology Company. Her role involves strategy, including skill building for the team, right-sizing roles, and refocusing on industries. Today, that means that the CRM practice within Eclipse is a high-performing, target-exceeding, hyper-growth business unit, laser-focused on retail, manufacturing, and financial service industries, with support for public sector and healthcare through recent merger and acquisitions. Heather, thank you for coming on the podcast.
Thanks, Mark, for having me.
Excellent. So, Heather, it was Scott Sewell that recommended. How do you know him? I
attribute Scott the guy to being the guy that really taught me CRM. I joined Customer Effective, and Customer Effective had just closed a big deal with CSX Transportation, and Scott was like the lead guy assigned to it. Back before we really called people project leaders, he was probably in that role, and Scott was given me, whether he liked it or not, and for the longest time, for a year or so, it was Scott and Heather, and I got a lot of hands-on time. We were there with CSX in Jacksonville, Florida, every week, and it was a great opportunity to learn from an MVP. And I doubt that many people can say that that's how they started their career, was sitting right next to a CRM MVP every day. But I learned a whole lot. I was a sponge. He probably wanted to hurt me with some of the mistakes I made along the way, but Scott has the patience of saying, and so I was able to really glean a lot, and I attribute a lot of my success to getting started under his wing, if you will.
Wow, great. So can you tell us a bit about you? How did you get to where you are in life? What are you passionate about?
Yeah, sure. Well, I definitely didn't get here in a straight line. I don't feel like much of life goes in a straight line, but outside of work, I'm married to a wonderfully patient man. We've been married for about 5.5 years. He needs all the patience in the world to put up with me. I have a 2-year-old named Ian and a 1-year-old named Emma Grace. We have 4 dogs, Isabella, Caitlin, Paige, and Biscuit, and we live in Charlotte, North Carolina. So it is a pretty full household. And they keep me busy before I even consider getting out of bed and going to work. So in my consulting career, I started consulting with Customer Effective, as I mentioned, in 2010. In 2013, I made a jump to Tectura, which was shortly thereafter acquired by UXC Eclipse. And then acquired and merged, and now Eclipse is part of DXC Technology. So I've been in a VP or senior VP role for 3.5 years, and I'm seeing this practice go from 4 people to over 25. And once we finish our integration with Tribridge, we'll be 100 and probably 140 by that point. So it's been a wild ride, but a whole lot of fun.
So I understand that, well, what you've just said there, that's a range of acquisitions and mergers there. So it was Tectura acquired by UXC Eclipse, acquired by CSC merged with HPE to create DXC, and that has now acquired Tribridge. Can you tell me a bit about what you learned from all those mergers and acquisitions?
You know, I've probably learned less in terms of the CRM application and more frankly about being a leader and being a person. I've learned incredible resilience. I think that too, and I look at there's quite a number of us who started with Tectura and have gone down this path. And I would be remiss if I didn't say that we commiserate every now and again to say which one was the worst, right? But I've learned resilience. I've learned problem solving. I've learned to be creative. And each one has had its own unique challenges, its own unique stressors. But I've also learned that we always come out better. Eclipse, UXC Eclipse was better than Tectura. DXC and Tribridge and Eclipse are better than just Eclipse. And so there's a lot of positive in that. And there's a lot of career growth in that and endless opportunities.
So what do you recommend for people that find their company being acquired and dealing with that? I suppose if you're not in management so much, there's a lot of uncertainty that creates. What's your advice to them?
Well, I think first and foremost, if you're a consultant, if you are a billable resource, you should never worry about an acquisition. You're the one making money, so we're not going to get rid of you, because the only way we make money in a consulting world is really by selling the gray matter between people's ears, to steal one from Michael Elliott at Customer Effective. But my advice is give it 6 months. With every acquisition, I've said I give it 6 months. We'll see what happens. The first 3 are always the hardest, and all of the ones that I've been through, the first 3 months are brutal. And it's sort of get ready and put your open-mindedness to work, but give it 6 months. And I think these things tend to settle within 6 months. It's always something I've done for myself. When we went from Tectura to Eclipse, I set a 6-month goal, and then I said, okay, it's better, but 3 more months. And then I did another 3 months, and then I got to a year, and it was great. But I think mergers and acquisitions are one of those rare times where you get to kind of try something on for size, and you get to see if it fits, and if it doesn't, make a change.
Any highlights from that process?
I would say that in all of the jumps, the deals have gotten bigger. The opportunities have gotten more interesting. I think it's gotten bigger and more interesting, and that's the biggest highlight for me. I've always managed to, attrition is a big thing. If you want to talk about kind of what happens in the background, not what happens to your business, but what's happening in the background, we can talk about attrition. I mean, attrition is something that's going to happen. And I've sat in lots of leadership meetings where we go, well, I wonder what's going to happen now. Bonuses are going to get paid. Are we going to get a whole lot of resignations on Monday? We don't really know. And it's something to work through. But I think the thing that I have always done to kind of counter attrition is talk to people. Not necessarily talk to customers; they're important, but talk to the people that are living through it, and also talk to the customers, because this latest round of going from Eclipse to Eclipse, a DXC Technology Company, and acquiring Tribridge almost simultaneously, I talked to a lot of customers, and our customers didn't see a difference. And that to me was the biggest win. I mean, there were some stupid things like the invoice looked different. Okay, they don't like it as well as they liked our old one, but you know what? We're going to move forward with that. And but from a work quality delivery, from an engagement point of view, they weren't really impacted by that. And I think that was because we were ahead of our people. There's an open door, open Skype policy, if you would like to put it that way. And being in front of the conversation and being in front of the challenges that are going to come it makes a huge difference.
Just to switch gears slightly here, recently I read a book, and it's a book I've recommended to a lot of people to read, and I'd only taken excerpts, but I actually sat down and read it this year, and it was called Lean In, Women, Work, and the Will to Lead by Sheryl Sandberg, and has led me to think more about women in leadership and addressing unconscious bias in the workplace. What's your advice to men in regards to this?
Well, Mark, I would say, first of all, it's a great book. I've read it a couple of times. My goal is to read option B I bought it. It's sitting on the Kindle, but between the kids and the husband and work and acquisitions and mergers and all of this other stuff, time it eludes me. But a great book by the way. So my advice to men would be read the book. It's not a girl book. I think there's this kind of, because of the title, there's this bias toward the book that it's a book for girls or a book for women, and it's not. It's for everyone, and she addresses kind of both sides of the gender coin, if you will. My second piece of advice for men would be invest in being part of the solution and not part of the problem. And I do believe it is a problem. It's a problem at Eclipse. It's actually a problem at Eclipse that I have said that I'm going to set out to change our trajectory. I'm the only one on the Eclipse leadership team in North America. I'm the only female on that team. And I want some female representation because we can do really great things. And I think for men, it's, take a step back. And when you're making decisions, take a step back and ask yourself, if you're making a decision because of someone's gender or because it's really the decision to be made. But that only really works when you have a deep awareness of what the subconscious does with gender in the workplace, especially, but gender really all the way around. And I think, men have to come to the table in order for it to change, in order to change that thinking. And it's a really great read.
So what advice do you have for women?
Well, I think my first piece of advice starts the same. Read the book if you haven't already. My second piece of advice is don't be that girl. I don't think that change comes about by walking into a boardroom and announcing our presence and demanding change. Cheryl opens the book with a story about when she was pregnant, I think with her first child, and there was no parking for pregnant women, right? And I'll be honest, through 2 pregnancies, I lived and died by pregnant women parking in the mall, at the grocery store, everywhere, right? So, that was a small thing, and she did sort of demand that, but she didn't demand that we create a team that's equal women and men. I think change happens by being the change. And Cheryl talks in her book a lot about women embracing who they are. And if they want to have children and step out of their career, do it. If you want to have children and be in your career, do it. And I think that's really a powerful message. I think by the natural child rearing ages, which happen in your 20s and 30s, you're going to find women fall out of the workplace. And I don't think there's anything in the world wrong with that. Because I'll be honest, for the longest time, a stay-at-home mom watched my children. So if it wasn't for that woman who had given up her career, my children wouldn't have had her. And she is as much their mom as I am on a lot of times. I mean, when they smile, when they see her, their faces just light up. And so that's incredibly important because it does take a village. I think for women, it's going through that period. It's taking the bias out of your own decision making. And I have done this, and I hate to admit this pains me, but I have made female bias decisions. It's taking the bias out of our own decision making. It's supporting your fellow women, whether they be a stay-at-home mom or a working mom. Don't tear each other down. There's no need for that. It takes a village. And I think women need to manage the perception of who they are and set their boundaries. Because I read Cheryl's book, and I think Cheryl really changed my career. And this is she's the COO of Facebook, right? And in the book, she says, I leave my office every day at 5:00 to go be with my kids and to make dinner and to spend some time with them before they go to bed. And I read that and I said, well, if Sheryl Sandberg can do it, surely I can. So I don't leave at 5. I do leave at 5:30, or usually between 5 and 5:30, but still every day. And everyone knows, don't call her between 5:30 and 8:30 at night. Happy to talk to people at 8:30. But those are the 3 hours a day that I get with my kids, really. And those are really important hours. It's 15 hours a week. I think my career can afford me that.
Oh, that was very good. I've decided that I'm on the pathway to becoming a feminist, and this is part of my journey.
Well, welcome to the club. I've always kind of cringed at that term, but I suppose I'll embrace it and call it for what it is. And I probably really am a feminist. But I believe in standing up women to be powerful because we can be. We have lots and lots and lots of talents, both at home, at work, socially, volunteer wise, and the world would do much better to have a few more women on top, I think.
Agreed. As in a couple of years ago, I was in Los Angeles and at an art gallery, and it was on a trip back from the MVP summit or something like that. And in this art gallery, they had this massive room of all the different pieces of art or art curators, libraries, etc., around the world. And the percentage of women involved was just shockingly represented. And the whole thing was to call out and go, if you don't actually start thinking about these things and get, if you're like really conscious about it, you just let it carry on, and you're missing out on so much. So
yeah, I mean, like I said, I think change starts with being the change, and I've gotten to a point where I need to own that. I think women on my team are underrepresented. They're certainly underrepresented in leadership, and the arts industry is an interesting one because I think there's a place where women aren't underrepresented, and maybe there's some notes to be taken from what they're doing and how they're doing it and why they're doing it.
So I'm interested in exploring your thoughts on people in the Dynamics 365 practice. In my culture, I come from New Zealand originally, and we have a saying in Maori that says, he a te amo nui, o te ao, he tangata, he tangata, he tangata. And this translates to what is the most important thing in all the world? It is people, it is people, it is people. Our business is software and business productivity. What part do people play in the Dynamics practice in your view?
Simply put, they are the practice. I'm certainly not the practice. It's everyone who interacts with our customers every day. They're the ones out there solving the customer's greatest challenges and coming up with creative solutions to some of the hardest business challenges today. And really, I sort of have the easy job, right? I'm here to make sure that and create an environment for them to be successful in. I can look back to some really big, just massive multi-year, multi-million-dollar deals that we closed. And, I invest myself heavily in the sales cycle and in the close. And sometimes I have a bit of a hard time kind of handing it over to the team and letting it go and letting them do what they do. And I can remember on probably more than one occasion where they tell me to get out of the way. And I love that they course correct me and set themselves up to be successful. They know that I am not the practice. I hope they know that I am not. I might sit on top, and you might hear someone say Heather's practice, but it's not. It's Andrew, and it's Trent's, and it's Coley's, and it's Jonathan's, and it's all the people that fall underneath them. It's their practice. They're the ones making really cool stuff happen. I just simply create an environment.
Excellent. Just to talk on another topic that I know that you're keenly interested in, I read a Forbes article that states that millennials will comprise more than 1 in 3 adults in America by 2020 and 75% of the workforce by 2025. So what's your experience with working with millennials, and what advice would you have?
Well, I'm a bit biased. I am a millennial. So I was born in 86. Now that I've made that public, I have hidden that for years because I'm always the youngest one. But I was born in 1986, so I'm definitely millennial, pretty much smack in the middle of being a millennial. And so I'm a bit biased toward my own generation, as I think we all are. But that aside, I think millennials got a bad rap at the start. I really consider us a generation of people who don't know boundaries. Probably creative and overconfident, and definitely not quiet. And I think we struggled. So go back. Well, I guess I'll go back to my own story, right? So I graduated from college in 2007, right? What happened in 2007 and 2008? This entire economy crashed, right? We had the Great Recession. So here's a group of people whose coming of age was really, for a lot of us, in the Great Recession or in their very early years of their career in the middle of the Great Recession. And it became very difficult. I I finished my degree early. And I remember at one point telling my dad, thank God that I finished it early, because I wouldn't have wanted to have graduated in '09 as I was supposed to, because it was really bad by then. And I looked at a lot of the people that I started college with who graduated in '09 in the traditional four-year period. And they've struggled for years, right? I got a 2-year head start on them, and I'm really grateful that I made some of the decisions I made. But there's the Great Recession. You look at our childhood. Our childhood is marked with some of the highest rates of divorce across kind of the generation, if you will. We went through the birth of social media during our coming of age, and so I think we were sort of given a bad rap at the start because, we were young, we were cheap. So the companies that did hired us because they were getting rid of more expensive people. And that can be a bit of a knife in the back. So I think we got a bad rap coming out of the gate. That all being said, look at what we've done, right? Because now we're 10 years removed from that. And I think everything is probably 2020 in hindsight. And so things start to look differently over time. And, go back to when we were in college, Facebook was a college thing, right? Anyone who was in college didn't have a Facebook account. We all had MySpace accounts, if we remember MySpace. I don't know what happened to MySpace, but that died terribly. But because of some of those influences, I think in our coming of age years, we were able to come in and kind of influence and to some degree demand workplace technology that's kept up with the pace of our social lives. We've also seen millennials turning to consumers. So not only are they part of the workforce, they're also they also are consumers, and they demanded that technology in their consumption. Look at Amazon, right? I mean, Amazon is, I think, fueled by millennials. I don't know any of the stats, but I would imagine that a huge part of the customer base for Amazon is millennials. And I know lots of moms that don't order diapers. They don't go to the store for that. They order from Amazon, right? Groceries, they come from Amazon. I mean, it's become ingrained in who we are. I won't say her name, but I have one of those AI devices on my desk. She would end up talking to us. But yeah, I mean, I can tell her to order diapers and they'll be here that day or the next day or, whenever I want them. So I think millennials have definitely shaped technology, both as consumers and in the workplace. And you're seeing this really rapid change especially in workplace technology. That's really exciting. I look back at CRM and I got started a number of years ago now, 7-8 years ago. And, it wasn't uncommon to get a lead or an opportunity or even a project where you're going in and implementing a CRM solution for the first time, right? I would say even 5 years ago, we still saw that. I don't remember the last opportunity I saw that a company didn't have any CRM system. It just doesn't happen today. And so that's even just bringing it way down to our level in our small space in enterprise technology. You see CRMs that are far more device agnostic, mobile friendly. Everyone's on the go all the time, 100 miles an hour. And you see CRM solutions kind of keeping up with that and being where they want to be. And I think millennials are going to continue to push the envelope with technology. We're risk takers, and we'll see where it goes. But I sort of think that the millennials isn't a thing anymore. I sort of feel like we're over that, and that's a good thing.
Excellent. So Generation Z follows millennials, and according to Wikipedia, that is people basically born between the mid-1990s and the mid-2000s. Who have grown up with mobile phones. They pretty much don't even know what a landline phone is, tablets, touch everything. What's your thoughts on the next generation entering the workforce?
Yeah, I think the millennial focus is going to fade and the Gen Z focus is just begun. And, I'm fascinated by this group of people. And this is really exciting. I want to just hire a whole bunch of them and see what happens. Just more as an experiment. So maybe I'll hire a whole bunch of Gen Z women. It would be fun. My boss might have a heart attack, but I think if you thought millennials were envelope pushers, watch out. This is a generation of people who have never known life without a smartphone. They They literally, and it's not even just that they don't know what a landline phone is. That's fine. I can accept that. But they've literally never known life without their parents running around with a smartphone, and from probably somewhere around the age of 8 to 13 themselves running around with a smartphone. It's sort of a natural extension of their arm. It's kind of just permanently glued in there. And so this is a group who they don't use a lot of computers. They would much prefer their phone. We use tablets in school. And so they expect technology to work. There's not a whole lot of patience for things that load slow or all of that. And so this is going to be an interesting shift because, like, I go in, I'm going to throw our own Seattle office under the bus. I go into the Seattle office, and I'm not going to lie, I have gigabit internet here at my house. I go into our Seattle office, and that internet is painfully slow. I mean, Gen Z is in for an interesting awakening when they walk into an office and the internet is just slow. I mean, and that's true of a lot of offices, right? Client offices, our own offices. It can depend on how big the building is, how big the pipe is coming into the building. Lots of factors to that. But that alone is going to frustrate this next generation, and so it'll be interesting to see where they go because they're far less risky. There's some really interesting stats out there on Gen Z about the things they did in high school. They were far less likely to drink or do drugs when as compared to millennials. They were less rates of teen pregnancy in this generation than in millennials. So you have a really risk-averse generation, largely fueled by the 9/11 attacks on the Twin Towers in New York. And so, but they seek a fulfillment that even I can't understand. And their fulfillment is fueled by what I would call a cruel social network. And so how is that need to feel fulfilled and really feel cool going to translate into how they act and react at work and in a workplace? And I just think it's really exciting. And I'm a millennial, so I'm open to change. Would love to have them. I think they have a lot of value to add. They understand technology in a way that no one else in the workplace does right now. And I want to take that, unwind that, package it up, and frankly sell it to our customers.
Yeah. So to switch gears a bit here, I'm interested in loyalty and how as a leader you create loyalty or create an environment of loyalty within your team. So what have you found most effective way to inspire loyalty in your team?
I would say I have 4 things. Number 1 is be loyal to your people. Number 2 is pay them fairly. Number 3 would be opportunities. You have to create opportunities for them to advance, whether that's, advancing their skill set or advancing in title. It's different for everyone. So, but you have to get down to what advancement do they want. And number 4 is be a good listener. You learn a lot about people by listening, taking the time. There's lots of people where they called me for something at, 4:30 and I'm on the phone with them as I'm pulling into daycare at 5:30 or 6 o'clock. And I'm like, yo, I got to go. Right. Listen, engage. Don't be afraid of the casual conversation. Really, I took a lot of detailed notes, mental notes, I'll call them, because there's nothing really written down about how I wouldn't act if I were the manager. Typical millennial. But I haven't forgotten those experiences, right? And I've been in situations where, my manager threw me under the bus because they made a mistake and blamed it on me. I've been in situations where someone just didn't know how to handle my energy and enthusiasm and, cut me down rather than standing me up and pointing me in the right direction. I've been in situations where my confidence has been misconstrued as a lack of humbleness. And so I've taken these notes and I have a genuine desire to create a better work environment and support the people who are this business. Because again, it's not me. And I think this creates loyalty just as a natural byproduct. Because I look back at my own experiences and there's some things that I went through, some things that I was told that I don't ever want anyone to have to go through. I want better for them so that we can stay focused on doing really cool stuff and being innovative. Because I think you get these little nitpicky things that are said to you along the way that get kind of twisted in a way that maybe they meant, maybe they didn't, maybe it was just passive aggressive. And it eats away at your ability to be innovative and creative and get excited about something. And so that's sort of my approach. I don't really think about creating loyal employees. There's sort of an ickiness to that, but it just my genuineness, the fact that I'll talk to people just for no reason, really, that I am loyal to them. I hope I pay them fairly. If there's anyone that feels like they're not paid fairly, let me know. I want to fix that. And we're creating opportunities, right? I mean, we talked about the mergers and acquisitions. Frankly, that was an easy shot at creating opportunities, but I've interviewed lots of people and said, well, yeah, I want to hire you, but not for the role I was thinking I want to hire you for. I want to put you here because that's where you fit. And so that's really fun.
Excellent. So when it comes to your team and the people that are working for you on projects, etc., how do you balance competing priorities between billable work and ongoing staff training? More than ever, Dynamics is in a constant state of flux of new stuff coming and evolving. How do you make sure your team stays up to speed on that as well as, do their billables?
Now, this is a tough question. And I always feel really guilty for this question because I don't think I do it well. I've always taken the approach and probably fueled by my upbringing at Customer Effective that we're professionals and sort of responsible for our own development. And while, I didn't like it then, I still don't like it now. I don't know that I have a solution to that. I'm definitely open to better ideas on how to do a good job and how to support people in that, because it is really important both to my business and to them as individuals. So, Mark, maybe you should find someone to do a whole podcast that is doing that well. Because I think you could do a whole podcast on that topic alone, because it's definitely difficult.
So true. I mean, a mantra for me has come from Stephen Covey, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And one of the habits, he says, you've got to sharpen the saw if you don't keep yourself learning and evolving. And but I just think sometimes it comes as a secondary thing in life, rather than if you're going to go ahead or get ahead, you need to constantly be keeping yourself sharp, upskilling, that type of thing. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, and there's a lot of challenges that come into that just kind of outside of work. When Dynamics 365 was released, I was on maternity leave, and there was no. I was on maternity leave with my 1-year-old, and there was no forewarning before I left. I think I went on mat leave like late August, and I came back just after Thanksgiving. So I suppose Monday will be my first whole year back after her. But I came back and like the whole world had changed, right? And I promise you, sharpening the saw was not my priority. Kind of during that window, I was looking for as much sleep as I could possibly get. So it's challenging, right? And the challenges are work related, they're personal related, and time management. Comes down to time management. And I think anyone who can do phenomenal time management should share what they do and how they do it. I've read lots of books on it and opinions on how to do that, but I really think it comes down to time management, and I think we Eclipse and some of my delivery managers, they all of the delivery managers really, we focus on time management more than how do you work in training.
So, what are your views on grad programs and mentoring?
I will be honest, I lean more toward mentoring, and we opened talking about Scott Sewell, and Scott became a mentor. No one said, Scott Sewell, Heather has a lot of potential, so you're going to mentor her. That happened organically. And going back to lean in, I mean, Cheryl talks about this in her book as well. Organic mentoring is far more powerful. And so I like to create kind of matchups of people or make introductions where that organic mentoring can happen. I look at my own self and I think a lot of my decisions are reflective of kind of who I am. Sitting in a classroom, going through a really structured grad program is not my thing. And And I would sort of argue that for most people in a STEM field, that's painful. And so I've always had a yearning for real life experience. And I can take a real life experience and I can twist it around and apply it to, other experiences or other challenges. But I didn't get there by a structured learning program. College didn't teach me real life. I have a marketing degree, so college didn't teach me much of what I do today. And so I lean toward more of the mentorship programs and mentoring people coming out of college and starting their career, or people looking in their career who want to get to the next level, and how do they do that? And I've been fortunate to have mentors along the way who taught me technology, who helped me through business challenges and how to, frankly, I think Scott probably taught me how to write a requirements document. Bless him. But then I've had other mentors along the way who have coached me in being a woman in leadership, right, and being a woman in technology, who have helped me to, I think, tone down some of my natural inclination to be very competitive and be a little aggressive, and to call it things like tenacity. And all of those people have influenced who I am, and I think they've added more value than any structured program. So I do like that. And Tribridge has this kind of in the bag, but they have a really well-baked associate program whereby people coming out of college or with a couple years of experience but looking to make a career change can come learn dynamic CRM. I like that because that's teaching them the software, right? Let's get the basics before we go throw you in front of a customer. Because the sink or swim method has a 50-50 shot. You're either going to sink or you're going to swim, right? Exactly. The customer effective team took the sink or swim method with me, and I would say it turned out okay. But there's a lot of people who didn't survive that, right? And arguably, that's not their fault. Some people just need a little bit more hands-on. And so I like those programs. I'm a huge supporter of hiring college grads, of teaching them CRM, adding to the labor market, because it's a brutal place right now. And really kind of standing them up. But then I think after a couple of years of that, you need to move into mentorship and helping them get the most out of their career and figure out what makes them happy.
Yeah. So what's your recommendation for people to find a mentor? So they're in a company, let's say they don't get on with their boss, as in they don't say they want to aspire to that person. How do you encourage or recommend that they find the mentor in the industry or outside their company, etc.? What would you say?
Yeah, I would say to those people, first and foremost, I don't know that my boss has ever been my mentor, right? My boss is the one I'm trying to impress. The mentor is the one I'm trying to get real life with. And I think there's been one point in my career where I think we kind of those lines got bled a little bit, and that was okay. But for the most part, your boss isn't supposed to be your mentor. So don't panic about that, for sure. I think mentorships come when they're built in the same way that relationships are. So how do you build a relationship? Well, you got to start by talking to people, right? You never know who you're going to be talking to about what topic. And they're going to go, wow, that person's really smart. I want to get to know more about that. I want to know more about how they think. I want to know more about what they're working on. Hell, maybe I can help them get to the next level. And so I think it starts with talking to people. I've never walked up to someone and said, hi, will you be my mentor? In part because I'm not that bold, despite what people may think, I'm just not that bold. But I've always sought out advice from people, and sometimes my seeking advice or saying, hey, can I run this by you? I know your business is doing this or has solved this problem or had this problem. What are you guys doing about it? I think mentorships start when you start asking those questions. There are people at Eclipse that I look up to that I call scratching my head about something, and I'm like, hey, so what would you do if you were me? Right? Mentorships can be at peer level. Because look, I'm one of 4 senior vice presidents. I look at those 3 guys and I go, they're a lot smarter than I am, but I'm going to fake it till I make it. Right. So, I often call them and I'm like, hey, I can't do fill in the blank. what would you do? Our senior vice president of analytics is really great for this, and I call him a lot. I usually call him about 7:30 in the morning Pacific time because I'm on the East Coast, and I can pretty much catch him on his way into the office, and I know that I've got probably 20 minutes where I get focus from him, and he's been phenomenal. Just absolutely a great resource for me to bounce ideas off of. I can say he's probably called me once to ask me for my insight or advice or what are you doing or what do you see? But that's okay. I've learned a lot from him and I appreciate that. But I didn't go to him and say, hi, will you be my mentor? It just sort of happened.
Excellent. Okay, so I just want to run through some general quickfire questions for the end. What books do you recommend most to people and why?
Lean In all the time. And almost every woman I interview, I recommend that they read that book, and even to a lot of men. And I would say second is a book called Daring Greatly by Brene Brown. It's all about accepting that as humans we are vulnerable, and vulnerability makes us better people.
My wife just had me watch a video from her today.
Oh yeah, it's a great book. It's a tough read. It's kind of one of those things where you just kind of feel icky, but if you go do it, it's not it's not bad. It works out well. Excellent.
What's your favorite apps and why?
Oh, I don't know about why. Facebook and LinkedIn, that's probably obvious. Those are two I hit quite a lot. I'm really into my Smart Things app. My husband and I recently bought a house in August, and so I'm on a mission to automate all of the house. Like I don't want to touch a light switch ever or a lamp. I mean, that's so last century. Amazon, I definitely order at least twice a week from Amazon, and Ibotta, which is a cashback on groceries and things like that when you have 2 kids and 4 dogs. I'll take every penny I can get.
Do you have any daily rituals that kind of set you on the right path for a successful day?
A terrible morning person. I know everyone expects me to say, I get up at 5 o'clock in the morning and I go work out and, the traditional routine, but I'm a terrible, terrible morning person. My husband does mornings and I do evenings, but so my routine really comes from my evenings, and every night, and people tell me that this is a little OCD, so I understand, but every night I must clean the house. I have to do the dishes, pick up all the toys, do the laundry, pick up kids' rooms, clothes. I mean, you name it. The 7 bodies in this house can tear through it in a day. And I think working from home fuels a monster neat freak in me because I can't focus if the house is disaster. And so every night, sweep the floors if need be, you name it. Takes me about an hour, sometimes an hour and a half if it's really bad. But that's my evening.
Yeah, excellent. Heather, it has been a pleasure to have you on the show. Before you go, if people want to follow you online, where can they find you?
LinkedIn is usually where I keep contacts and a network for work. Facebook is a bit more social, but if you send me a request on Facebook, I don't usually say no.
This has been a Dynamics 365 podcast focusing on the ingredients of a successful Dynamics 365 practice. Your host was Business Solution MVP Mark Smith, otherwise known as NZ365 Guy. For more information on this interview, show notes, feedback, and resources mentioned, or if you know someone who would be a great guest for future episodes, please go to nz365guy.com/podcast.